You're listening to Blackpool Church Podcast. Join us for our Sunday gatherings to make friends, explore faith and encounter God. Visit our website, blackpool.church. This is the Talk Archive.
Everybody, nice to see you guys. So the other week I went on holiday, and there's only really two things that me and my dad are competitive about. The first one is skiing, and the second one is putting together IKEA flat pack furniture. And so I went on holiday with my dad, and I knew we were going to do one of these two things, and I knew he'd booked some flights to mainland Europe. Now, I was hoping it was Sweden, and so I put my Allen keys in my bag ready to go, but it turned out to be skiing. But just in case you've never had the joy of putting together a bit of IKEA flat pack furniture, let me talk you through the process. So you're going to need to get yourself to Warrington, firstly, and when you arrive, there's like a massive blue shop. I don't know why it's blue, but it's the whole thing is completely blue. And you look at it and you'll think, that looks big. I'm going to need to leave myself a little bit of time. You might be thinking maybe it's 1, maybe it's 2 hours, something like that. Wrong. Okay, this is like 6 or 7 days minimum. You're going to be mostly living off meatballs while you're there, so just bear that in mind as well, because that'll be significant. Now, when you're there, there's sort of a few principles. One of the principles is you can only buy things that you can't pronounce. So as you wander around, you'll see little labels. And if you think you can say that thing, whatever it is, well, firstly, you're wrong. But secondly, you need to move on to another item because that's just a principle. You'll select an item that's relatively small, but when you get to your car, you'll still need to put down all of the seats. One of your children will be strapped to the roof of your car. The other children were lost in IKEA some days back. Don't worry about them. You'll not see them till they're sort of 20, 30. They'll work there in those yellow stripy jumpers. That's how they find their staff. And you'll get home. And as you arrive at home, suddenly the box will have doubled in size. It will have tripled in weight. It'll have 10 times as many screws in it. But none of this will put you off, because you are about to become the proud owner of a thing, and it's exciting. You'll get the box up into the room, you'll open it up, and there'll be a little manual in the front of it. People seen these manuals? So on the front of them, they have a line drawing of a piece of furniture, and you'll look at it and you'll think, oh my goodness, all my dreams have come true. It's so perfect. It's so practical. It's sort of understated. It's a bit Scandinavian. This is going to make all the difference in the world. And then as you flick over the first page, what you'll see is just like not a piece of furniture. It's just like a single screw, something like that. And there'll be a line to a hole. And then there's that weird guy. You know that guy who's like mocking you. It's like, you can't do this. Right, he's there. And it can be slightly deflating because you realize, oh my goodness, this could be quite a process. But of course, unless you do the first step, then there's no way you're going to be doing the last step. And I think that's a little bit like the passage that I want to read to you today from Philippians 4. Because there's a verse that jumps out to me at least that feels really perfect, really amazing. It feels exactly like what I would want, but it might also feel a little bit deflating as well. Let me read to you from Philippians 4. We're starting at verse 4, and maybe you can spot the verse I'm thinking of as we go. It says this: "Rejoice in the Lord always." I'll say it again, rejoice. "Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you've learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you all. So for me, the verse in that passage that jumps out at me is verse 6. It says this, do not be anxious about anything. Don't be anxious about anything. And as I think about that, I think, yeah, wow, it sounds so perfect. It sounds so practical, so useful. It's sort of vaguely Scandinavian. I guess if that's on offer, I want it. Like if I could just drive to Warrington right now and I could just have freedom from anxiety and I could just collect that, then the sermon is over. I'm getting in my car. I'm going right now because I need that. But it might also feel a little bit unattainable. It's like, how on earth would that be possible? It's a bit unrealistic even. Feels like Paul says, do not be anxious about anything. You think, well, thanks. If only I'd thought to just not be anxious about it. Oh, well, then it would have all been fine, right? I can't believe I've been going all this while worrying about things. If I could have just realized that I could not be anxious about it. Really brilliant, useful advice. I don't know, it feels sometimes to me like in my attempts to try and live free from anxiety, I'm looking a bit more of like a box of bits and thinking, how on earth am I going to put these things together to build towards a distinctively non-anxious life? But Paul wants to talk us through step by step, how do we do this? And I'm going to show us how he does it in this passage. And man, our world needs a non-anxious church. It needs a non-anxious church. I mean, I recently learned that anxiety disorders are now the most common mental health condition. They affect 359 million people worldwide. I learned that 20% of UK adults say that they spent the last 2 weeks feeling anxious, either most of the time or all of the time. 20% of UK adults, most of the time or all the time. That's 14 million people. And this is growing rapidly. There are twice as many people showing symptoms of generalized anxiety disorders than in the 1990s. I learned that people worry about these big 4 things. Finances, firstly, then work, secondly, health, third, and relationships, fourth. So in an incredibly anxious world, how might we be a church which is distinctively, noticeably non-anxious? Well, Paul starts like this. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, ... And we can probably pause there even for a second, because I think there's something that is really important for us to learn from this passage, which is that Paul clearly believes that it is possible to live free from anxiety in every and any situation. I mean, he says in every situation, ... And so he presumably believes that it must be possible to be free from anxiety, whatever the situation is. And you might know loads about the book of Philippians already, but if not, there's a couple of things that you should know. One is that it's like the most joyful book in the whole Bible, I'd say. I mean, it is right up there as one of the most just like abundantly happy and excited books that you'll read. And the book just sort of like overflows with Paul's excitement, his joy to know these people called the Philippians and what they've been up to. And I'll read you some examples. It says, grace and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. He says, I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel. He says, it's right for me to feel this way about all of you since I have you in my heart. He says, and this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight. He says, the important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached. And because of this, I rejoice. He says, yes, I will continue to rejoice. That's just some extracts of Paul's joy that overflows from this letter. And as you're reading that, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Paul is presumably on the side of some pool in a luxury, all-inclusive, all expenses paid holiday destination, but he's not. Does anybody know where Paul's writing from? He's writing from prison. Yeah, he's literally in prison as he writes this letter. And for the ancients to be in prison wasn't like it would be today to be in prison. I mean, being in prison now, it isn't very nice, but for them it was absolutely horrendous. I mean, you wouldn't even be fed unless somebody else that you knew paid for you to have food. There was no kind of welfare system for you to make sure that you were fed by the prison. You wouldn't be fed at all. There was no universal declaration of human rights to protect you. You'd be beaten. You'd be tortured. Of course, you wouldn't be guaranteed a fair trial in advance of going to prison. And the New Testament is testament to the fact that you don't necessarily get a fair trial if you're in Paul's situation. What's more, Paul has been imprisoned for being a missionary. And that's a problem because he's devoted his whole life now to being a missionary. And so he doesn't have all that much to look forward to once he gets out. I mean, if I were to go to prison today, then presumably I could potentially hold on to the hope that maybe while I'm there and then maybe afterwards, I could sort of turn my life around and sort out whatever the issue is. And then maybe I could go on to tell some people about Jesus once I'm out or serve the church or whatever it is. And that would give me a sense of purpose. But for Paul, that's not going to be true. As he looks ahead, there's only really two things that could happen to him. The first is that he could give up on his faith. Well, that's not an option. And so the second one is he could absolutely bank on being imprisoned again and rearrested. And so when Paul writes to the Philippians, this isn't like some guy who has it easy telling everybody else just to get it together and not worry about things. It's not somebody with no challenges telling people who have it incredibly difficult that they just need to sort themselves out. It's not somebody with no experience who couldn't possibly understand what it's like. This is somebody absolutely up against the odds in an incredibly difficult and challenging situation, saying to the Philippians, hold on, you can have peace. You can have peace. Even in that situation, you can have it. It's possible. He's saying, take heart, don't give up. Stay calm. Peace is possible. And I don't want to presume about your life. I don't know what's going on for you. And it's not really a competition anyway, is it? But all I can think is that if it were possible for Paul to have peace, then it must be possible for me. That's all I can think. I mean, I am not currently in jail, right? And you'll be pleased to know I don't have any plans or expectations to be in jail anytime soon. They'll never catch me anyway. If it's possible for him, then I think it must be possible for me. You can have peace in any situation. Do you believe that's possible? Do you believe that's possible? That you might find yourself in prison, but you could still have peace? Or you might find yourself attacked by other people, but you could still have peace? That you could have unmanageable debt, and you could still have peace? That your family situation might be a complete train wreck, and you might be constantly in conflict, but you could still have peace? That your work might be difficult or non-existent, but you could still have peace. You might be in the depths of addiction, but you can still have peace. Just maybe turn to the person next to you. Say to them, you can have peace. Now, maybe they didn't believe you. You know, they were like, no, but you don't know about my stuff. You don't know. Turn back to them, say, I don't care. You can have peace. So, how is it possible that you could have peace in any situation? Well, the answer is that it wouldn't be your peace. It's not your peace that you're trying to grow inside yourself. It's his peace that you can receive. And this is so important because the world will tell you that if you just get a little bit more balance in your life, or maybe if you diffuse conflict a little bit better, maybe if you choose your friends more wisely, plan your finances better, eat the right food, look after your body, whatever it is, then you will be able to discover peace within yourself. But it's not true. That is not true. Those things are all good in and of themselves, but they can't give peace like Jesus can give peace. I mean, look at Jesus's life, for instance. Did he do those things? Like, did Jesus live a balanced life? I don't think so. Did every day have like just the right amount of, overnight oats and just the right amount of time spent asleep and No, Jesus seemed to like swing wildly from absolute 100% devotion to one thing so that nobody else and nothing else mattered apart from this person in front of him. And then suddenly it would be like, no, I'm going up a mountain and I'm just going to pray on my own, or I'm going off into the desert for 40 days to fast and everybody else can just get lost. He would swing wildly from these different extremes, 100% devoted to whatever it was that's in front of him. Did Jesus diffuse conflict well? I don't think so. He created an awful lot of conflict. I mean, he instigated a load of conflict. He insulted quite a few people. Did Jesus pick his friends wisely? I don't know. I don't think he picked them super wisely. I mean, he picked us, for instance. And he picked Judas, of course, who would betray him. He picked Peter, who would abandon him, and all the rest. Did Jesus plan his finances wisely? No, don't think so. He said that foxes have dens, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. And that was probably because the friend that he chose unwisely stole all of their money. Do you remember that? Yep. Here's the thing. Peace is not something that you achieve. It's something that you receive. Something that God gives you. It's not something that's self-made. It's something that's spirit-given. That's the way peace works. So let's dig in then to see what Paul is saying about how we experience God's peace. He tells us this: in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And I notice 3 key terms in that. There's prayer, there's petition, and thanksgiving. So, let's check them out. First one, prayer. So the word that Paul uses for prayer is a Greek word. It's proseuche, and it's the most common word in the New Testament for prayer. And it's made up of 2 parts. One part literally means something like towards, and the second part means something like vow. And so it's like a vow offered towards somebody. And that sort of makes sense, because prayer, in this definition, is to come into a relationship with God where we commit ourselves to him, where we make some kind of commitment in our lives and it's directed to God. So like in a marriage, for instance, this is what happens as well. 2 people stand at an altar and they make a commitment, a vow, and they make it towards the other person. Now, I've often thought about Adam and Eve wandering in the cool of the evening with God in the garden. And it says that they would speak to him at that time. Now that's interesting because this was before the fall, before sin entered the world. And so there was no struggle, there were no difficult relationships, there was no sickness, there was no pain, there was no sin. So the question is, what did they talk about? Right? Because they weren't asking for something, I wouldn't have thought, were they? Or asking for something to be fixed, certainly, because nothing was broken. So I wonder what they talked about. And what I'm assuming that they talked about is just whatever you would talk about as you walked with somebody in a garden. And particularly God, you just wander along and you say, great river, or whatever it is. I really love what you've done with the river. Or like look at these mountains that you've made. They're just so amazing. I love how you've made them just like that. And so as we first think about prayer, what Paul's teaching us is not like an asking relationship. He's going to come to that later. Instead, it's sort of just a walking and talking type relationship where we can just make sure that in the new creation, we'll have plenty to talk to God about, because we're just in the habit of saying, I love the river. I love what you've done with that. I love the mountains. I love being with my church family. It's so good to be together. I love the music. I love just the things that you're doing. Not really asking for anything just yet. I just like to be with you. And for me, I practice this personally by actually literally walking. Sort of my favorite way to pray, really, is to just set off for work earlier than I need to so that I've got time to wander with God. And I wonder today whether for some of us here, God is inviting you into just like a wandering kind of relationship. It's all got a bit functional, all got a bit by the book. It's just saying, just come walk with me. Yeah, I've seen that thing. I know about that thing. You don't need to worry about that thing. Just come walk with me. Let's spend some time together. That's the first word. The second word then is petition. Prayer and petition and thanksgiving. Second one is petition. And the word in Greek, if you want it, is deesis. And it means asking for things, asking for stuff. And this is kind of crazy if you think about it, because the letter to the Philippians, well, that was written to a whole church and probably passed around a circuit of churches. But then since then, quite a lot of people have read it, haven't they? I mean, like most Christians through history have read this thing. And they've all been told that they could ask for things of God. And Paul also says that this God, he gives peace that passes understanding. So he's like the God that you can't comprehend. And so what we see is this picture of this God who's like completely incomprehensible. He's ununderstandable. He's so far above. And then that God is being given the requests of countless billions of Christians throughout history. That every single one of them and every single one of us now and every Christian part of the universal church across the world is all giving God requests, all asking things of him. And in that context, he's still interested in your one. Like he'd still be interested just in your request. I mean, what an incredible thing that is. And maybe even particularly because you're interested in it, he's interested in it. It's a remarkable thing that you can ask God for things, but it's the relationship that he invites you into. He cares about this stuff. And it works a little bit like this. Can I borrow someone for a moment? Matt, can I borrow you? Matt Dovey, everybody. Matt, I've got some stuff. And these things represent things that Matt might be worried about, okay? And so he can sort of hold these things. So, I don't know, like housework. That's a worrying thing, isn't it? And, well, of course, you guys have got a little baby. And that's really like important. So that's the thing to make sure that you like hold on to. This is like conflict was what I was thinking. No, it's not got anything in it. Yeah, so you could maybe hang on to that. And like, there's quite a bit of conflict at times. This could be like study, maybe. And so, yeah, you just need to bear that in mind and do something with that. Lemon, healthy eating, maybe. Look after your body. So you hang on to that. Fitness, etc. Need to look after your body as well. This little mouse that Luca had, I don't know where he got that from, but it's certainly concerning to me. And so you can hold on to that. And then like fun and free time. that's something that you need to like think about. Maybe like, again, health and stuff. Obviously, the point is obvious. Okay, Matt's not able, I hope you get some of this down. As we continually give things to Matt, he becomes less and less able to carry those things. But if Matt was allowed to pass any of those things on, then that would change everything, wouldn't it? You know, if we, for instance, represented God in the story, so that every time I gave a thing to Matt, he was allowed to just pass it to somebody. Oh, well, then we would be more than able to carry anything that he needed us to carry. Thanks so much, Matt. He could carry anything as long as he was continually passing it on. And we would even all together just represent a fraction of God's ability to carry the things that we need him to carry. It'd be like, it's no big deal for these anxieties and these concerns and worries to come, because in prayer and petition, I can just say, Lord, this one's too heavy for me, so I just need to give this to you. This one, I don't know how to fix this particular thing. It doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. So I don't know what you're going to do with it, but I just need to give it to you to carry, because I just can't keep carrying these things. I remember a time a few years ago, before Nick and I came to Blackpool, when we discovered that we were going to be coming. And what had happened was, we were at this church in London called HTB, and we were really excited about some kind of planting in the north of England. And it turns out, if you're in South Kensington, but like really keen to come to the north of England, you're immediately at the top of that queue. And so I went for lunch with this guy called Mark Elsden-Jew. And I thought I was just going for lunch. And then I left thinking, are we planting a church in Blackpool or trying to do something? And I was cycling home on the phone to Nick on like a headphones. I was like shouting, no, Blackpool, I'll tell you when I'm home, you know, all this kind of stuff. And we got home and we spoke about this thing of could we join a congregation in Blackpool to try and start a resource church. And in that moment, I remember us talking about it and staying up. We couldn't sleep through the night. And I remember the enemy just speaking a lie just in that moment. And the lie was this: nobody will do it with you. That was the lie. And I believed that. And that led to an enormous amount of anxiety. I just thought, we'll go and nobody would want to come and join in with that. And that'll mean we'll feel really lonely and it'll just be rubbish, basically. And I became extremely anxious about that. And I remember like praying and praying to the Lord, God, would you give us a team of people who could come and help us do this thing with people who are already there? And I remember getting so concerned about it that I said to the Lord eventually, I was like, I can't even pray about this anymore. It's just making me more worried the more I even talk about it. So for 40 days, I don't know why I picked 40 days. It's like a biblical thing, isn't it? It just felt holy or something. I don't know. I said, for 40 days, I'm going to do nothing about this. You won't hear from me on this matter. I won't speak to anybody about coming. If people message me to come, I won't get back to them. And that will be my thing. You would not believe the things that God did in those 40 days. I mean, even like, well, there are people who've been involved in leading this evening who contacted me out of the blue during those 40 days to say, we think the Lord is calling us to Blackpool. That kind of thing happened. And I consider that just a gift of the Lord, that he was kind enough to deal with some of the things that I was trying to carry. But what it made me realize, of course, is that he's much better at carrying things than I am. And it doesn't necessarily mean he'll fix all of the things. It just means that whatever I'm given, I should always remember to continue passing them on to him, because he's just so much better at carrying them. Let me give you one more. And then we're going to pray, and maybe the band can come up, because I'll just be quick with this. lastly, maybe we could say something about thanksgiving, which is this final word. I think it's really cool that Paul's picked thanksgiving as one of these words, as an antidote to anxiety. Because if it were me, I would want to wait for thanksgiving sort of until the end. I wouldn't want it to be an ingredient to living free from anxiety. I think, well, let me do all that stuff, sort it all out, not be worried about things, and then I'll be able to be thankful. It feels sort of like, to go back to the IKEA metaphor, it feels like we're eating at the dining room table as we're building it. That this is an ingredient seems surprising, but I think it's cool. And that's because Paul wants to remind us that there's a lot to be thankful for, regardless of the things that we're worried about. That you will not ever be worried about anything that comes even close to the scale of the things that you could be thankful for. You might find some stuff that feels big to you, that you could be worried about it. But let me tell you, it's going to be nothing compared to the things that God has already done that you could be thankful for. And so I thought maybe I could even just remind you of some of the things that you could be thankful for. I mean, you've been created, right? You've been created by a loving God who knows you intimately. He knows every single cell in your body. He knows what it does. He understands it. He knows how it works. He knows every thought that you've ever had, every word that you've ever spoken. And he created you with a purpose. What that means is that the whole world is not pointless. The things that you see around you, they're not meaningless. They have a purpose. That things have meaning and value to them. The things that are precious to you, they may well be not just precious to somebody else, they may well be precious in and of themselves because God has given things meaning and value and purpose. What it means is that even when God could have abandoned creation, he chose to not do that. That's something that you could be incredibly thankful for. That he could have turned his back on creation, but he didn't. What I'm thankful for is that because Jesus came, I have an example of how to live. I mean, I could have just been like wandering around in the dark with no idea of what I'm supposed to do with my life. But because of Jesus, I have an example of how to live. And I really needed that. And so I'm incredibly thankful for it. I'm incredibly thankful that Jesus has defeated sin that I've been carrying. I'm incredibly thankful that he's been raised to a new life so that I can have a new life that starts now but goes on forever. I'm thankful that there's a hope in eternity that will continue and that other people can be part of that hope as well. I'm thankful for the church, that I get to be part of a family. And not just like a little normal family, but a family of billions of Christians around the world so that I could go anywhere in the world and I would automatically be with my family. I'm incredibly thankful for that. I'm thankful that God's doing a new thing in our days, that there are people in this room who are going to be baptized next week because God is doing new things. He's setting people free. He's working in people's lives and he's not finished and he's going to continue throughout the rest of my life and long beyond that if Jesus doesn't return. And I'm thankful that he will return and he will put everything right that is wrong and we will fix everything that is broken. There's a heck of a lot to be thankful for. And I have some small concerns compared to that. He's interested in those things as well. But as I begin to practice thanksgiving, I can put those small things into perspective. And so my prayer for you today is, might you do the same? Don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, regardless of what's going on, by prayer and petition and thanksgiving, just present your requests to the Lord.